All right, everyone. So the last kind of topic I want to talk about is the concept of randomness. Okay. So uh, if we look at the programs we've been writing, the programs we would be, that we've written so far with P5JS, they're always going to be they're always going to run exactly the same. So if I have a program and for instance, let's just say I'm going to have a variable called circle X and I'm setting it equal to 25. And I'm going to set circle to circle X. Oops. Okay. The program is always going to be the same. It's never not going to be the same. I turn it off, it's the same. I turn it off. And the reason why that's happening is the code is the same. So if you run it, you should get the same results. And most of the time, that's good. That's kind of what you want, right? You don't want the code to run and to not work exactly the way that you think it's going to work. But sometimes in certain programs, this might be kind of boring. Um, think about it like this. If you're playing a video game, if you always know where the enemy is going to come from and you always know where the power ups are, and if you go here at this time, it's always going to happen that way, the game becomes kind of boring. You know what I mean? It loses sort of what we call replayability. And we can kind of fix that by having a little bit of randomness. Okay. Like flipping a coin. When you flip a coin, it could be heads or it could be tails. You never know. And that changes things. Okay. So how do we add a little bit of randomness? Well, there is a function called random. And what it will do is choose a random number. You give it two arguments. One is the minimum and one is the maximum. Okay. So if I come into here, I can set I'm going to make a variable. Actually, let's keep the variable circle X. Now, to run the random function, it can't happen where you're initializing variables. It can only happen either in setup or draw or another function, but we haven't declared any functions yet. So I'm going to come in here and let's put that circle here in the setup because I only want it to run once. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say circle X is equal to random. Okay. So what this means is I can choose a random number and I can give it sort of a range of numbers, like the minimum number I want it to be in the maximum. So let's say I had made it between 0 and 10. It's going to set circle X equal to a random number between 0 and 10. And just to kind of show you that this is going to work, let's just print out circle X to my console here. So if I run it, 7.3. I run it again, 3.4. I run it again, 3.8. I run it again, 0.64, right? And if I were to kind of get rid of this, um, I'm going to put a circle here. And I'm setting, let's make the number bigger. I'm going to set it to the maximum to 400. So now it's like I can, every time I run it, the circle's moving to a random location. You know what I mean? If I were to take this code and I'm going to put it in the draw, remember that the draw runs every frame. So what this would mean is every time draw runs, circle X gets a new value. And so see how it's like constantly kind of erasing and putting a new version of it in there? Okay. So you can kind of see how we can use this. I could use it to randomize the size of a circle. Every time I make a circle, it can have a different value or different diameter size. Um, you can even apply this to color. Remember in the last one, how we kind of played around with incrementing RGB values because RGBs can be represented as numbers. Well, I'm going to come into here and this is a level of, this is a gray color. So what if I'm going to call this color, or I don't know, color R, I'll call it. And I'm going to set color R equal to random. Now, the way you actually work with RGB values is the minimum value in RGB is 0 and the maximum is actually 255. You're wondering why that is. That seems kind of random, right? Is because computers work in powers of 2. It's called binary. And 255 plus 0, meaning like when I say 0, it's a slot. So really it's 255 and the slot of 0 is 256. And 256 is a power of 2. That's all you need to know. It's almost the answer to all computer programs issues is always, it's probably because it's a power of 2. Anyway, so I'm going to say the 0 is the minimum and 256 is the maximum. And then I'm going to put that value into here. So if I were to say color R, oops. So you can see it's actually, okay, actually I did this wrong. I should have done it here so that it actually just did it once. But actually what was happening is it was rerunning over and over, which kind of makes this interesting kind of flickering effect here. So you can see how we could have some fun with it. And if I decided to make a couple more variables, I'm just going to do the same here. So color G equals random 0 to 56. And let's do the same here. Oops. Sorry, I messed this all up. So where is she from? RGB equals random 0 to 256. Color R, color G, color B. All right. So what's going to happen here is this is going to set the RGB variables that I created to some random number between 0 and 256 for each one. Those are then going to get substituted here because of variable substitution. I just realized that I should put this probably in the setup so it only runs once. So every time I run it, I'm getting a different RGB value. What was going to happen is if I'd kept it here, this is going to create like a flickering kind of color effect. So don't look at this if you are prone to seizures, but you can see how we can do some fun kind of interesting things here so that what we're doing is not always the same. Okay.